All right, welcome back from lunch. I'm a little bit biased, but I do think that we have the most fun panel of the day. Yeah, and being able to talk for a little bit backstage, I'm actually way more confident saying that now. So we have had the chance today to talk about the challenges that are out there. We've had the chance to talk about some of the solutions. And we've had the chance to talk about how we can advocate for change. But now we're getting into the segment where we get to talk about why. That's one of my most favorite things, is to understand the why behind everything that we do. But before we get into the meat of this discussion, I don't want to wait any longer before we introduce our awesome panelists here. So Jeremiah, Kaitlin, and Chandler, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, what sports you play, and why do you play sports?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremiah Johnson. I'm a recent graduate. I just graduated from high school. I'm going to Prairie View A&M University. The sports I play are football, rugby, and I played a little bit of golf in high school. And I feel like the overall reason that I play sports is not only the competition, but I feel like what I get out of the competition and my ability to enjoy the sports outside of competition, whether that be with my peers, with my family, or whoever else I get involved with it with. So.
Yeah, I'm Kaitlin. I'm an incoming senior, and I play rugby, volleyball, and golf. And yeah, the main reason I play these sports is just like growing up, I felt I was very shy and timid, and playing sports allowed me to just come out of my shell a little bit and have new opportunities like speaking on this panel. And yeah, it's been really fun.
My name is Chandler Young. I'm 15 years old and I play basketball, and I played a little bit of football growing up. But the main reason I play sports is because it allowed me to make friendships and connections with different people, and it allowed me to meet new people that were like-minded like myself and that wanted to grow and to better ourselves.
And to introduce myself, my name is Heather Mannix. I work for USA Hockey. I grew up playing hockey and swam and dabbled in basketball and realized real quickly I should stick to hockey. And so I have, one of the things that have gotten me to where I am today, and I was able to work with Dr. Amanda Visick on a groundbreaking study that looks at what makes playing sports fun for kids. And so to kind of frame the conversation that we're going to have today on the stage, I'm going to give you a brief overview of what that research and science actually showed us, and why it's made such an impact, and how it'll continue to make an impact as we keep going forward. And so what we did was we went out into the youth sport community and actually asked the youth sport stakeholders, what makes playing sports fun for players? So we asked players, parents, and coaches to define everything that makes playing sports fun. Because what is fun is the reason why, that question is the reason why Amanda was able to secure government funding. And for those in academia out there know that our government doesn't typically fund youth sport research very much. So it was a very important question to ask, because what we knew before this study was that fun is the #1 reason why kids play sports. Before this study, there was no operational definition, and so what coaches and parents and youth sports stakeholders had to rely on was just their past experience, which may have been great and may not have been great as well in other cases. And so by asking the community to help us define this emotive, elusive experience, we now have a framework that coaches and parents, and again, youth sport administrators, all of you, have a framework to work within to create this experience. Because youth sport is very unique in the sense that it is for the kids, but we as adults are responsible for creating that environment. And so understanding what they want, we have to make sure that we ask them. And so quickly, they identified 81 specific actions and behaviors that went into making playing sports fun. They organized it into 11 categories, and we found that fun in sport comes from 4 different sources. The context, right? The games and the practices allowing yourselves to be competitive. the social sources of fun. So we have our positive team dynamics and that feeling of belonging, team friendships outside of the sport, and our team rituals. We have those internal sources of fun, which are our trying hard, our learning and improving, and the mental bonuses that come along with playing sports. And then we have our external sources of fun, which stem from positive coaching, game time support, and of course, swag makes the list, right? I have to say that I don't have the coolest shoes on this stage, but I tried to up my sock game and to make up for it. Because I do know that swag is important when it comes to making sports fun. And so all of these things are very important, and we wanted to make sure that we kept the data and the research in the child's voice, in the youth stakeholders' voice. And so we know that because that's the most important voice that we should be considering with all of this. And so with that, continuing to bring the youth voice to the stage, Jeremiah, you've played, obviously we have a couple of multi-sport athletes up here, which is commendable in itself, these days especially. But Jeremiah, you and I had a conversation in the back, and we talked about playing sports outside of organized sports. Do you do that, and why?
Yeah, I oftentimes, as I grew up, I always played sports outside of competition, outside of organized sports. And I feel like that's important because a sport is only as much fun as you make it outside of winning the championship, outside of just being in an organized team for your school, outside of this club. So I feel like, that goes along with like pickup sports. Mm-hmm. So pick up basketball in your neighborhood, throwing the football around, playing football or baseball tournaments. Mm-hmm. I feel like those things are very important for an athlete, especially a student athlete growing up, because a sport is something, of course, that as you go, it turns into a business. So doing a business for your whole life is a very, very strong commitment to have. Mm-hmm. But when you're able to take this business and be able to make fun out of it, so be able to play outside of an organized sport, that kind of makes it more enjoyable for you, and not only just you, but the people that's around you. Mm-hmm. Because everyone usually finds enjoyment in sports. Growing up, there's been countless of times where before we even know about competition as much as we do now, we kind of make our friends and make our best opportunities out of just playing pickup sports outside of school. So I feel like that was a really great opportunity for me growing up to learn more about sports and to learn more about how I interact with sports.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, and it's those social relationships, that sense of belonging that kids have identified as critical to creating that fun experience, not just in organized sports, but those are the things that kind of happen a little bit more organically when you're playing pickup with your buddies. So, Kaitlin, I know that as a multi-sport athlete, is your why of why you play sports, is it different from one sport to the other, or is it the same?
Yeah, I feel like it's different for each sport. Like playing rugby is obviously a much more like aggressive and explosive sport. So I feel like I use rugby as an outlet to like just unleash all the emotion and everything. And then volleyball, it's more like building relationships and learning teamwork and like just like building girlhood and sisterhood as well with like your teammates. And then golf was just something I decided to join. I never played golf. I always thought it was like boring, honestly. But like I tried it and I was actually really good at it. And I kept like playing, showing up to golf every Wednesday. And I really enjoyed it, so yeah.
That's fantastic. And what was one of the things that was actually important for you as well?
Wait, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, that was a terrible question, so yes. So when you think about your most positive experience that you've had in playing each one of those sports, what can you come up with?
I feel like playing rugby, we like travel. And so one of the most positive experiences I had with rugby is traveling to Memphis, Tennessee. And we just like, it was a cultural experience, honestly, like going to another state and just seeing how differently, like even playing touch games in practice, we played it differently, just learning from one another. And then with volleyball, I feel like anytime we like hit a good serve, or we got like an ace and the other team didn't hit it. Like, it was just like we'd come together, we'd cheer together, and it was very encouraging. Like, even on the court or off the court, we were very encouraging, so that's just like a good memory. And then with golf, it's like, I feel like everything about golf is positive because, because it's like, it's personal, but it's also collaborative, and like walking around the course and like playing with people that you like love and want to talk to, it's just so fun. So
Yeah. And it's great to hear that, because the research that we did was based in team sports, and so it's interesting and it's very cool to see the transferability of that data to an individual sport as well. And so Chandler, you talked about friendships, that sense of belonging. How were some of the ways that was created for you in your youth sport experience?
Could you repeat that question one more time? Sorry.
What were some of the things that maybe your coach did or your parents did to help you feel that sense of belonging in your sport experience?
Oh, well, my mom for sure, she kind of forced me into being confident,
Just meeting your mom, I can see that.
I mean, she's always been in my corner, and like just her always pushing me to want to be better, and just like talking publicly like I am now is just it really helped me in the long run, because now that I'm more confident and more willing to speak in these public events, and just having her and just, I don't even know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense.
But just having her in my corner just really helped a lot. Yeah.
She seems absolutely awesome. Again, just got the chance to meet her. And so, Jeremiah, what are some of the ways that playing sports has helped build your confidence? You're quite confident, as we discovered in backstage.
Yeah, I feel like I naturally always had confidence. I kind of went into sports with the mindset of who's gonna be better than me, nobody, but But I feel like overall, sports give you confidence not only in yourself, but your ability to work with people, which kind of goes into what I was saying about how sports, as you grow up, it builds your confidence not only in sports, but outside of sports. Because first of all, you have to have confidence in a job environment, in life, and in a sport, because you're going into this thing where you have teammates, and a lot of times you have teammates you might not like. If someone next to you just laugh, watch out. But I feel like it just gives you confidence in not only your ability to add to a team, but to create a team within yourself. I feel like a lot of the times I went into a sport and I may have thought that I don't have the best abilities in this sport. I may not have been the most athletic, maybe not the fastest, maybe not the strongest. But then I realized that it's not about the assets that you have for a team, it's the assets that you bring to a team. So I feel like that's just the biggest thing I learned.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so confidence is absolutely one of the most important things to come out of playing sports. And so when we think about what gets in the way of fun, because again, so fun is the number one reason why kids continue to play sports. The number one reason that's cited that they stop playing sports is because it's just not fun anymore. And so have any of you stopped playing a sport because it just wasn't fun anymore?
No, I never stopped playing the sport because it wasn't fun anymore, but I did stop guitar lessons when I was younger because I didn't. That's about it.
I actually did stop. So my freshman year, I played football. I've always been about football. I have a Green Bay Packers shirt on, best football team in the NFL. But oh please.
Crowd reaction.
Oh please. But I played football my 9th grade year, and then part of that confidence that I had just kind of went away as the season was over. I was really undersized for my position. I felt like I was out there working. I felt like I was working for my coach. I felt like I wasn't having fun with myself. Because I also feel like that goes in with your mindset and the coach's mindset, because as a coach, one, you want to love the sport and love the kids playing the sport and let them play more than them playing for you. and let them play for themselves. But I feel like I naturally just felt that went away. So after my freshman year, I quit and I didn't play for my sophomore year. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go back and play my junior year. And then the wonderful COVID happened and that didn't happen. But as I went to my senior year, I played, and it might not have been as enjoyable as I thought it was, but part of me regretted quitting and stopping that sport just because it wasn't fun anymore. Part of me feels like if something's not fun, you should stop, but I wanted to really realize if the reason that I stopped was because other people weren't making it fun, or if I wasn't making it fun for myself by doubting myself, which I feel like is something a lot of students have growing up. So I feel like before we step out of the sport that we once loved so much, we need to open our eyes and see, okay, why am I not enjoying this so much? What can I do? What can my teammates do? What can my coach do? Because I feel like it's very important to stick with what you really love and believe in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Very well said. Chandler, what was your experience? Because I know that happened to you as well.
Well, growing up, I tried to play a little bit of football, but I never felt like I was really like a part of the team, or I was never really a part of that camaraderie with all my other teammates. And you know, like football is a very aggressive sport, and me personally, I'm not a very aggressive person, so it just never really matched. I never really matched their intensity. Like during the game, I'd never be like super aggressive or anything, because that was just never the type of person I was. So for me, basketball had always just worked out better for me, and I could still be aggressive on the court, but still have that, like, I could still hold back my aggression and do it in a controlled way by playing basketball, and that really like. That's why I chose basketball over football.
Yeah. And so Chandler, I'll stick with you because and so Jeremiah brought up the wonderful COVID that came in and kind of put everything on pause. And so we've talked about the importance of sport in our life, and we talk about the impact that it has when it's gone. And so can you talk us through your experience going through COVID and not being able to play sports? What was that like for you, and how did it make you feel? Yeah, you, go ahead.
Well, for me, COVID had really sucked because it basically cut off everything that I enjoyed doing. Like I was playing basketball, I was doing martial arts a little bit at the time, school, and like it just felt like I was just cut off from the rest of the world, and I became very antisocial. I started gaining lots of weight, and I just became like very uninspired to do anything. And like, I just sit at home, wouldn't really do much. My mom would try to get me to do something, but it wouldn't really do much for me. And I just felt like without sports, I didn't really have much to do. And yeah.
Kaitlin, talk us through your experience and not being able to play sports.
So during COVID, I took the time to find new hobbies that weren't so outdoorsy or physical. Like I started reading again. I learned how to crochet. I started doing art, and I could focus more on school because being a student athlete, it's you're always trying to find a balance. So with COVID, it was the whole focus was on school, and then little things you would do outside of online school. So yeah, I just took the time to do more softer things to myself that I really, really like to do at home.
Jeremiah, go ahead and tell us your experience.
Yeah, so when COVID hit originally, everything kind of shut down, so I was just confused because I'm always on go. I feel like I always got a sport to be at, I always got a practice to be at. So at first, I kind of just slept. I didn't really do too much, but then, I started to just slow down and think about things and understand how my schedule was when I did play sports and how I can alter it now. But also, I kind of never really stopped doing anything involved sports. So my rugby team, we used to work out on Zoom for a while, and we used to actually train the younger kids. So I did that for a while, for a pretty long time, until we actually started to be able to get back into at least, social distance working out. So I kind of found ways to keep myself involved in those sports because I kind of was never used to just sitting around.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much my experience.
Yeah, and so it sounds like, you were able to find ways to still maintain that social interaction. Kaitlin, did you do anything to help maintain that social interaction with your team or teammates during COVID?
Yeah, so Jeremiah and I were on the same rugby team, so we did have like Zoom workouts and stuff. And I feel like it was hard when COVID first hit because it's like, I go to online school, now I don't have practice after school, so what do I do? And it was like trying to find something that you could do that was still like socially interactive was kind of hard. But luckily we did have coaches that still wanted to like keep the fire burning, as my coach would say. Like he wanted to maintain working out and like just keep in touch with each other. So like Zoom was a big part of working out and keeping that social interaction.
Yeah. And so coming out of COVID, we'll start with you, Chandler. What do you think are some of the most important things that you want parents, coaches, or just youth administrators that are in the room to really focus on when creating this sport experience for you?
I think something they should focus on is creating a area or a space where people feel like they belong. Because for me, I lost interest in football very easily just because I didn't feel I belonged there. And by creating a space that people feel like they belong, they can grow as a person, not just in their sport, but just as a person overall, they can grow. And as well as just keeping competitiveness, because it allows the person to grow as well. But
No, that's you're spot on, right? So it's about creating that a space that you can still have that outlet. I know some of the panels talked about the incremental stress, right? So creating a space where you all are able to feel that stress, but then come back down, and then feel that stress again, and then come back down. Where it feels like over the last few years, I couldn't agree more with the first panel that talked about, you know, how the stress just keeps building and keeps building, keeps building, and we don't ever have that space to come back down. And so I think, you know, Chandler, that's what I'm hearing you say, is that creating that space that allows you to have that sense of belonging and that space to just come back down again. So agree. Jeremiah, what are your thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, so I feel like, first of all, COVID showed us how many resources that we lack, especially in some sports, especially like around my community. So I feel like, for one, we need to find ways to where we can make it easier to access, because the lack of access can make it not fun, because you're fighting and you're fighting and you're fighting just to be able to get opportunities that you wouldn't necessarily have to fight for if you had more opportunities just laid out in front of you. And also, I guess the number one thing coming out of such a big challenge, the reason of a sport is for someone else to do everything that they can to make sure that your day goes wrong. So just like in competition of a sport, you do everything that you can to make it go right. That's what competition is. That's what a sport is. There's an opposition, and that is going to be stopping you from winning. So just like in a sport, just like with all that we do, I feel like we should just keep on fighting and keep on competing to be able to make it as safe, as fun, as enjoyable, and as accessible as we can for everyone.
And so, Jeremiah, you bring up a really good point about focusing on the process, right? And you talked about, you know, okay, everybody, you know, in sports, the other team is doing everything they can to see you lose. How do you overcome that? How do you overcome that adversity? How do you overcome that challenge? And I think that, you know, when we think about creating that fun experience for kids, especially within sport, one of the things that, you know, we always start to think about is, well, you know, winning, right? And if you look at our youth sport, how it's been professionalized over the last few decades, it's all about the outcomes, right? How do we achieve these outcomes? And now all of a sudden our focus is solely on those outcomes. And so Jeremiah brings up a great point about how do we make sure that we're creating an environment, a space that allows our kids to focus on the process of overcoming that adversity, the process of overcoming all of those challenges, and the people that want to see you fail on a day-to-day basis. And so that really, what we found in the research and in the study was that the majority of the things, the actions and behaviors that make sport fun for kids are process-oriented. There's one determinant that they identified that was outcome-oriented, and it was winning. And that was, when we ranked all of them in terms of importance, it was about middle of the road. And so that means that there's like about 39 other things that we could do that were more important than on that one outcome. And so I think that you bring up a really great point about focusing on that process. And so, Kaitlin, again, I'm just going to make sure I want to get your opinion on this as well. Coming out of COVID, what are the things that you want parents, coaches, youth administrators to know about creating that experience for you?
Yeah, well, like during COVID, I feel like one of the major things that a lot of students went through was like a lack of motivation. And like, I wanted to play volleyball during COVID, and we had like the opportunity to, but we didn't have enough girls who wanted to come out and try. And I feel like coming out of COVID and being able to be in person again, it's important that coaches continue to encourage us because we need the motivation. And like we were saying, like there are people who want to beat us in competitions. So just keeping that encouragement with like yourself, your teammates, and from your coaches, it's less about winning and losing and more about just being together.
Yeah, very well said. And so as we start to wrap up, are there any final words that each one of you would like to say? Chandler, man of many words, you got anything?
I don't have much to say.
That's fine. Kaitlin, you have anything?
I just say like the main reason we play sports is because it's fun. And it's to really like connect with our inner child. I know as we get older, we stop playing, we stop going outside and doing things like passing a ball around or like meeting up with your friends to play a game of volleyball or go on the golf course. So just remember that it doesn't matter your age or if you're in school or not, it's simply about having fun.
Jeremiah.
I would say that just like how every sport has individual departments, there's different positions, there's different people. Every single athlete has different needs. So what makes a sport fun for one person might not make it sport for the other child. So I feel like it should really be also a personal relationship with people who are involved with these students and these athletes during the sports, because that's how you learn how to make it enjoyable for them, getting to know them. Instead of just getting to know them as an athlete, getting to know them as a person. So I feel like that just makes it just as important, relationships. So, yeah.
So I couldn't agree more, and I couldn't be more thankful to be able to sit up here on the stage with the three of you. If there's anything that I can kind of summarize from some of the things that were set up here were, just the importance of creating that space. I thought Chandler made such a really good point of that is our duty, to create this space for these kids to have the ability to have fun, right? And we know that without that space, right? We get, when COVID took that away from us, we have these now feelings of just lack of motivation, having that asocial behavior. You don't want to go out and be with your friends. Sports impacts us in so many different ways, and it is our responsibility as adults to create that experience, that youth sport experience, but it is for the kids. So like Jeremiah said, yes, it might be different from one person to the next, but again, if we think about what do we need to do as youth sport administrators, is just ask the kids what they want, right? They are the consumers of the experience. What is it that they want, and how can we create that for them? So thank you all so much.